What is up, guys? So the CW released a synopsis for The Flash Season 5 Episode 10 titled The Flash and the Furious. We previously got a trailer to this episode, but this synopsis definitely gives away quite a lot about what will happen in this episode. So with that in mind, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and let's break down the synopsis. So the synopsis reads: while Nora grapples with the revelation that Thawne killed her grandmother, Team Flash must stop the formidable team-up of a newly sprung from jail Weather Witch and Silver Ghost, a new Metatech villain who can control engines and motorized technology. Meanwhile, Caitlin and Cisco discuss creating a Metahuman Cure. So, breaking down this synopsis one sentence at a time, the beginning of it says that Nora is grappling with the revelation that Thawne killed her grandmother, which is not a surprising thing for them to say in the synopsis, considering her reaction to this revelation in Episode 8. It was pretty clear this was going to be a huge plot point this season. I mean, she did not know that Thawne killed her grandmother. She just thought that he was Barry's arch enemy, which I guess wasn't enough to tell her to not work with him, but the fact that he killed her actual grandmother, the same woman that she is named after, Nora Allen, that might give her second thoughts. And something I am looking forward to is Nora revealing this to Team Flash and their reactions, especially Barry, and that might even happen in this episode. Back when the first trailer came out, I thought that maybe the fact that Nora is working with Thawne is related to why Barry is in the Metahuman prison in Star Labs, although considering there is one promotional photo with Sherlock Wells in front of the prison, I feel like this is unrelated. I feel like he's in this prison because he might have been infected with something. Maybe one of these villains, Silver Ghost, who I will talk about in a little bit, took control of him somehow, because I don't think this is going to be related. He probably is he's a liability at this point, probably in the episode, so he is locked up in the Metahuman prison. But anyway, I am pretty excited to see this whole storyline unravel in the second half of Season 5, the whole storyline with Nora and Thawne. So next up, the synopsis talks about the villains of this episode, Weather Witch and Silver Ghost, a new villain who, like it says, uses Metatech to control engines and motorized technology. So first of all, Weather Witch returning is definitely not something I'm interested in this episode, considering she wasn't great in episode, I think it was 7, and if it was 7, which I'm pretty sure it was, that was not a very long time ago, because, I mean, that was 3 episodes before this episode. It's a really, really short amount of time for a character like this to return like a villain of the week, although she probably will have a larger role than I expect in this season. I mean, I don't think she should. She wasn't great again in episode 7, but she definitely will, considering, again, she returned only 3 episodes later. But as for Silver Ghost, well, in the comics, Silver Ghost is a guy named Raphael Van Zant, and he is from Earth X and a villain of the Freedom Fighters. His ability is molecular reconstruction. He has the ability to transform objects into silver, which, if you're thinking this sounds nothing like the villain from this episode, you would be right. Not only is this villain from Earth 1 and not Earth X, and she is going to be a villain for the Flash, not the Freedom Fighters, she also doesn't have any of the powers Silver Ghost has in the comics. In fact, her powers and Silver Ghost's powers in the comics are completely unrelated. She doesn't actually have powers. She has meta objects, but still unrelated. One of them can turn objects into silver. The other one can control engines. Unrelated completely. On top of all that, in the comics, Silver Ghost is a man. In the show, she is going to be a woman. It really makes you wonder why they named her Silver Ghost. She's going to have a completely different name, most likely, unless if her name is Rafaela Van Zant. I highly doubt her name is going to be any similar whatsoever, so it's so crazy that they took this pretty Z-list villain from the comics. Like, I don't really care if they changed this villain, but it's so weird that they even named her Silver Ghost, as she has absolutely nothing to do with Silver Ghost in the comics. It's possible that they didn't even know there was a Silver Ghost in the comics, but I do think that the showrunners behind the show, or the people behind the show, do an extensive amount of research, and it's not hard to find. You could just look up the name Silver Ghost on the DC Wiki, so it's insane to me that they even named her Silver Ghost, as she has absolutely nothing to do with the character in the comics. One thing that will happen in this episode that has to do with Silver Ghost is that she will take control of a very high-tech vehicle, a vehicle that is probably pretty similar to the Batmobile in the fact that it has a lot of weapons on it. In fact, I think that since the Arrowverse is now open to mention and reference Batman whenever they want. It would be cool if Barry, who does know about the Batmobile, mentions that this car is similar to the Batmobile, but that's basically everything we know about Silver Ghost. The synopsis ends saying something that I just didn't expect to see in this episode, or really ever on The Flash ever. Caitlin and Cisco discussing creating a Metahuman Cure. You do see this in the photos. You see Cisco working on something in his lab, Caitlin talking to him about it, and Killer Frost talking to him about it as well. Now, the Metahuman Cure thing it's pretty surprising that it's in this episode at all. I mean, the trailers looked pretty bloated for this episode, so hopefully this works, but I don't think this will stick around forever. It might be like a temporary thing, but considering if they do use this cure on, say, villains, because this does remind me of the Miracle Cure, they might use it in the same way. There in Arrow Season 2, they used it to cure the villains of the Miracle. Here on The Flash going forward, they could use it to cure all the villains of their metahuman abilities, but I don't think that will last, because if they do that, all of the metahumans will never be able to return, and it will be a pretty easy way to defeat the villains, especially if you're the Flash. You could just run over, you could basically stop time and stick the syringe of the Metahuman Cure into any villain. That will completely break the show. Now, Flash can technically do this already. He could just take out any villain whenever he wants, and the show tries to work around it. It doesn't really do it very well, but this will be taking it to a whole nother level where Flash can literally cure them, make them a non-threat for the rest of their lives. So I definitely highly doubt that this Metahuman Cure will even become a thing in this episode, although it definitely is possible. It would be weird if they discuss it and they never do it ever, because there's a rule of filmmaking that if you show something, you have to do something with it. I mean, it's not like a rule that like it's illegal, but it is bad writing if they do something like this and they never use the Metahuman Cure. So in that regard, they probably are going to do something with it, but it would kind of be show breaking, like it would break the show, like I mentioned how. So if it does become a thing, it most likely will not stick around forever. So again, this Metahuman Cure will most likely not become a thing, and if it does, it won't stick around for long. So that is it for everything I have to say about this specific episode and the synopsis, but one last thing is something that was revealed a pretty long time ago, like more than 2 weeks ago, but I didn't really get a chance to talk about it because I didn't want to dedicate a full video to it, but I will talk about it right here. So on December 20th, Carlos Valdez, the actor who plays Cisco Ramon, posted a video on YouTube with him and Tom Cavanagh doing something pretty crazy, but the camera panned down right at the end to reveal the concept art for the Reverse Flash's new costume. So it is hard to tell if this suit will look better than the actual Reverse Flash suit, which he's had for the last 4 years on The Flash, but I definitely think it has the potential to. I really like the black lightning bolts around his costume. Those look really cool, and it probably will have a more streamlined look. I mean, I do think there is a zipper there, but it probably won't be as noticeable as it was in the first Reverse Flash suit. It might be that they're using a different material. It's possible that they will use the same thing the Season 5 Flash suit is made out of, which I do not like the mask, but I do like the new costume for the Flash Season 5. So if they make a Reverse Flash suit out of the same material, then that definitely can look pretty cool. Now, this does definitely mean Reverse Flash will have a humongous role in the season, and I am kind of convinced at this point that Reverse Flash will most likely become the actual main villain of the season, as opposed to Cicada. Maybe something similar to Arrow Season 6, where the first 15 episodes had one main villain, and the next 7 episodes had another. And then it's also possible that Season 6 will have a couple episodes where the Reverse Flash is the main villain, similarly to what Arrow did with Season 7, which I don't really like that. It feels like it makes the seasons not real seasons. Like in Arrow Season 6, the first 15 episodes of Season 6 felt like a completely different season to the next 8, as well as the next 7 episodes of Arrow Season 7 felt like the same season as Arrow Season 6, with all the episodes with Ricardo Diaz as the main villain. So they might have the same problem here. Now, it's not really a huge problem per se, but I don't really like the villain switches. I hope Cicada stays as the main villain for the rest of the season, but Reverse Flash will most likely actually replace Cicada. Nevertheless, this costume definitely looks pretty cool. So anyway, in the comments down below, let me know all your thoughts on everything I talked about in this video, and if you like this video, like I said earlier, don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.